From advertising to software as a service to data.
Across all of our programs and clients, we've seen a 55 to 65% open rate.
Getting brands authentically integrated into content performs better than TV advertising.
Typical lifespan of an article is about 24 to 36 hours.
If we're reaching out to the right person with the right message and a clear call to action, then it's just a matter of timing.
Welcome to the Martech Podcast, and I Hear Everything production. In this podcast, you'll hear the stories of world-class marketers that use technology to drive business results and achieve career success. We'll unearth the real-world experiences of some of the brightest minds in the marketing and technology space so you can learn the tools, tips, and tricks they've learned along the way. Now here's the host of the Martech Podcast, Benjamin Shapiro.
Welcome to the Martech Podcast. I'm your host, Benjamin Shapiro, and today we're going to discuss what factors influence online brand trust. Joining us is Sterling Jackson, who is the head of marketing at Aspire, which is a leading influencer marketing platform trusted by 800 e-commerce brands like Glossier, Brookline, Ruggable, and Grubhub. Yesterday, Sterling and I talked about the new era of high-trust commerce and the evolution of influence. And today we're going to continue the conversation talking about why brands and creators are investing more into video content. All right, here's the second part of my conversation with Sterling Jackson, the head of marketing at Aspire. Sterling, welcome back to the Martech Podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back.
Excited to have you back and continue our conversation about the evolution of influence. So yesterday we talked about sort of the blocking and tackling, the dynamics of finding, sorting, working with, reaching out to, and getting creators and influencers to produce content that authentically talks about your brand. Today I want to talk a little bit about what that content is, right? You find the right people, you get them to create some content, maybe there's a monetary incentive, wonderful. What actually works? Talk to me a little bit about why brands and creators are investing more time and energy into their video content.
Video content is so interesting, right? Because our brains are wired to watch video and absorb so much more information so much more quickly than we can just by reading text or through traditional media. So I think there's really four things that kind of explain why brands and creators are investing more in video content. First is increased engagement. We did a study a couple of years ago where social media platforms generate about 1,200% more shares than just text or image content alone. Second is wider audience reach. Platforms like YouTube, TikTok, Insta, they all have content that has the potential to reach a much wider audience than traditional marketing methods. And they're also super easy to share, right? It's just a little click and it just can allow content to be scaled and go viral much more easily. The third is better storytelling. Video content allows brands and creators to tell a more engaging and emotional story because it combines those visuals, music, narration, and it's entertainment. We like to snack on little bits of video content. That's what social is all about. But the last one I think is probably the most important, and that's authenticity, especially when you're working with creators and influencers who have a loyal following because they present their content in a much more authentic way. That's what builds trust with those audiences that oftentimes you just can't do as easily or as quickly with traditional forms of just text.
There's no question that sight, sound, and motion combined can create an impactful marketing message. People have been TV advertising since the invention of, well, the television. But it's expensive and it's time consuming and it's something that requires a lot of effort to be on location with someone to record a video of them showing a product or showing an experience. Talk to me about why it's worth time to invest in video creation as opposed to some of the other mediums that are less expensive to record, edit, and publish.
When I was doing like high-end video production for customer marketing at a prior company, we would easily spend 40 grand just on a basic case study development. Creators today can literally put out multiple videos for essentially free, and it helps with the authenticity that you don't have that high production value. So it's, anybody with a camera, with this GoPro, phone, whatever, it's just so much easier and more accessible for, everyone to create content. So that's one thing I think explains the rapid increase in that trend. And I think it's only continued to scale even more.
Anybody can create a video these days, and then the question becomes the editing. There's some cost that goes into that, but you can send the files around, so the cost of video production has gone down dramatically. Now, there's a piece that we're missing here, which is algorithmic. It's great. Sight, sound, and motion is wonderful, and getting a video in front of someone is great. But it seems like the platforms that are where the videos are being published are favoring videos over other formats. What do you know about what Facebook and TikTok and YouTube are doing to promote videos, and why are they prioritizing video over some of the other mediums that are on their platform?
It does come down to the algorithms. I think a lot of those are proprietary. What we focus on here at Aspire is to help brands and creators establish those relationships, get those videos posted on the right platforms with the right audience at the right time, with the right message, so that regardless of whatever the algorithm is, you can be more likely to have a successful campaign. The beauty is that because the turnaround for producing these videos is so much faster than, say, a traditional TV ad, you can have much more rapid iteration and opportunity to sort of do A/B testing without having to know the details of what's behind the algorithm, which they don't share, by the way. You can kind of figure it out. So we've got a whole set of best practices, an agency, whether you want to do it yourself or have an agency to do it with you or completely do it for you. Those best practices can enable customers to have much more success much more quickly than investing in traditional media.
Sterling, you had a lot of experience with a bunch of different brands that are using video content and all sorts of other mediums. Talk to me about the most effective way to market, knowing that we care very much about influencers. We can get other people to create content for you. Talk to me a little bit about marketing strategy when it comes to using influencers and managing not only the content that they're creating, but how it blends into some of your other marketing channels as well.
Yeah, all of our customers are interested in specific KPIs when it comes to influencer marketing. It's impressions, it's pieces of content generated, it's the followers that they gained as a result of the campaign. And a lot of times they're interested in the media value compared to the other forms of paid ads that they're investing in. So we always try to help them frame what's possible with the campaign that they're generating and use the best practices that we've developed over 13 years of doing business to help them address each of those challenges. A lot of companies have just been using influencer marketing to keep their campaigns focused on that top of funnel, awareness and impressions types of KPIs. But we actually just launched a new impact dashboard that can help customers identify other forms of ROI, like the media value relative to, say, TV, for example. So we're trying to get customers to think about that full funnel conversation, right? So that they can go back to their CMOs and executives and say, hey, when we're doing these campaigns, we can really help you not just stay at the awareness level, but actually drive those conversions all the way through to purchase. And so when we talk about positive influence with influencer marketing, it's not just awareness, but it's actually driving through to the transaction itself. So that's why we have dedicated partnerships with all of the key players in the space to help facilitate those transactions. And that's why we kind of play not just in the influencer marketing space, but the social commerce space.
You know, the way that we think about content distribution, it used to be, hey, create some content, publish it on your blog. Then maybe you're syndicating it in a newsletter. Maybe you're posting it yourself on social media. Those days are gone. Sure, you need to create your own content. But what matters potentially just as much, if not more, is who else is talking about you. How are other people talking about your brands? And if you're not putting effort into facilitating those conversations, you're falling behind as a marketer. It's got to be in video. You have to hit the social networks, get your content out there, not only by you pushing it, but also by building relationships with brand promoters, creators, influencers, whatever you want to call them, to make sure your message gets out there loud and to the right people. And that wraps up this episode of the Martech Podcast. Thanks for listening to my conversation with Sterling Jackson, head of marketing at Aspire. If you'd like to get in touch with Sterling, you could find a link to his LinkedIn profile in our show notes. You can contact him on Twitter. His handle is TweetsSterling. That's TweetsSterling. Or you could visit his company's website, which is aspire.io, aspire.io. Just one more link in our show notes I'd like to tell you about. If you didn't have a chance to take notes while you were listening to this podcast, head over to martechpod.com, where we have summaries of all of our episodes and contact information for our guests. You can also subscribe to our weekly newsletter, and you can even send us your topic suggestions or your marketing questions, which we'll answer live on our show. Of course, you can always reach out on social media. Our handle is MarTechPod, MarTechPod, on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or you can contact me directly. My handle is Ben J. Shap, BenJShap. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you want a daily stream of marketing and technology knowledge in your podcast feed, we're going to publish an episode every day this year. So hit the subscribe button in your podcast app, and we'll be back in your feed tomorrow morning. All right, that's it for today. But until next time, my advice is to just focus on keeping your customers happy.